It's Zach Eady with Purdue men's basketball, and you're watching Boilers in the Stands.
Welcome back to Boilers in the Stands. I'm your host, Joe Jackson. Alongside me, as always, is my co-host, Craig Bowers. We're getting there. It is September 3rd on the date of recording this. We are 61 days away from the first day of college basketball, 62 days away from Purdue's first official game. And I don't have the exact number of days for Purdue's first exhibition game, but probably right about, I don't know, 55, something like that, 54. We're there.
50.
We're 50. Oh, wow. What day is the exhibition? I don't even know that. I should know that, but the 20th.
October 24th is the exhibition game, and there's 27 days. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we're getting there. Today we're going to be talking through the guard room. If you missed it, we did talk about the big room. I do think the guard room is a little bit more of an interesting conversation, but still had very good conversation and talk about kind of what we expect to see from the big room, and kind of from an individual standpoint, from a rotation standpoint, kind of all of the above. So go check that out after you finish checking out this one. Yeah, definitely. We're getting to that point where it's content's going to be start coming a little bit more regularly, and then before you know it, we're going to be on your screens multiple times a week, and then you'll be sick of us. So, Craig, long intro for me. I'll throw it to you. How is it going?
It's going good. It's been a crazy summer for anybody that's followed along. I've had to move and spent like a couple of months like packing everything up and moving, and then we had some car trouble in the last 2 weeks, and I've been shopping for a new truck in the last couple of days. And as you know, Joe, my prep work for the show came to you way later than it normally does, because I was out looking for a new truck in Monticello, Indiana today. But I am hoping that things finally slow down and get back to regular here soon as we get closer and closer to college basketball season and Purdue college basketball. And I can't wait for it. I'm just so excited for it. Every time I hear something from my Purdue people who are around, every time I hear something, I just get a little bit tingly about what's coming.
Yeah, no, it's exciting, an exciting time. I know. I just saw. I forget who it was that posted it, so I apologize for that. But somebody posted like national championship odds, and Purdue was the favorite per FanDuel. And right, they're going to be right in that group. I think it's going to be. Seems like there's a very clear top group. Purdue is very much in the mix of that, and I think the players that we're going to talk about today is they're going to decide whether Purdue is going to end up being a national champion, Final Four, or just kind of a team that's maybe really good in the Big Ten, and see kind of where they go in March. So, did you have anything else you kind of wanted to hit on quickly before we get through the guards? I know there was just a recent commits was that yesterday? Jacob Weber commits to Purdue. I know nothing about him. I know you informed me he's 6'6". I believe he can shoot the ball really well. My breakdown will come next summer, but you've watched a little bit of him, so kind of what are your thoughts in that?
Yeah, I had to laugh when I love that fans want us to like hear the breakdown on recruits. You and I don't really pay too much attention to what's going on out there because everything can change until we know that they're actually fully committed before we start looking. And in your case, not really until like that incoming year where you really dive into the film and everything else. The only reason I know much is because Nick, I hope I say his last name right. I'm not sure if it's Nick Arvin or exactly how I pronounce it, so I apologize for that. But fun time hopping on his show. He wanted to talk some recruits, and so I did a deep dive on everybody that I thought we were actually in the hunt for. And the kid is a shooter, just flat out shooter. And he does not need space, and he is confident, and he will pull up and just pop it from just about anywhere with any sort of sliver at all. If you're, I don't want to talk comp yet, but like 6'6", he's got great size, probably fits into that 3-spot mold of Sasha Stefanovic, Ryan Klein type of situation for Purdue. I think there's not a great comp if we look back over the last few years. He's got the shooting prowess. A lot of people have called him the best shooter in the country. In this class, I think what he's done so far kind of backs that up. So I think he's kind of got the shooting prowess of Ryan Klein, but I think he's got more bounce and more athleticism than Klein does. He'll get up and throw it down in transition a little bit. He'll take it off the dribble a little bit more and create his own shot a little bit more than Sasha. So I think he fits in that vein of those guys, but I think his upside, right, if he reaches his complete potential, is he's got a little bit of what all of those guys bring with just a notch more athleticism. Not as athletic as Coleman, but still a little bit more pop, a little bit more bounce, a little bit more in terms of what he can do off the handle than maybe what Coleman could. We're hitting a new era of recruiting, and we dove into that on Nick's show of like it started with Carson. It went to Jaden. It went to Braden, and guards and wings are now looking at Purdue through the guys that are going to play that 1-3 spot is a place that guys can excel because what Purdue's done, since that 18-19 run with Carson, and it's exciting, man, because there's guys knocking on Purdue's door right now that we just honestly didn't have knocking on our door, 5-10 years ago.
Yeah, an exciting time, and it's a good breakdown. Excited to eventually dive into the film. For anybody that knows what I do with Feed the Post, like I'm almost done with all the newcomers coming in for this season, so then it'll be season time, and then next summer I'll be able to get into his film and all the others. And is an exciting time though, just with the recruits and type of players that they're starting to be able to get. Seems like Painter's still definitely staying within his mold, but getting higher regarded players within that molds still is going to, I'm sure, find the diamonds in the rough along the way. Also, side note, shout out Jaden Ivey and Kaylin Ivey. Had the Purdue volleyball game on earlier, and they were at the match. I had to leave in the middle of the second. They lost the first, and then we're up a couple in the middle of the second. But they're back at Purdue right now. Purdue volleyball is on. Sports are back. Football won, and basketball's right about here. So I think from there we can kind of get into the guard room itself, unless there's anything else you wanted to hit on with recruiting and all that.
No, let's dive into it. And I mean, we have to start with Braden Smith here, right? Like you just have to. And front runner for National Player of the Year, consensus All-American last year. In terms of what he might accomplish individually this year, right? I put something out a week or two ago, just in terms of the accomplishments that he might get, right? He needs 133 assists to break the Big Ten assist record. Should reach that if he averages what he did last year, should reach that around the 16th game of the year, which likely will be in that window when Purdue is playing at Purdue without students in the building. So if you want to see him break a big time record, that's a great window to buy tickets in terms of the ones that are going to be a little bit cheaper than any of the rest of the year. To break the NCAA career assist record all time, he needs 318 assists. Again, based on last year's average, if he's right there with it, Smith would need 37 games. If you're doing math, Purdue plays 31 games in the regular season. That means 6 games total between the Big Ten tournament and the NCAA tournament. Really good chance that we play an extra 6 games if he is on pace with the same average that he was last year. Him and Loyer both are on pace to break the game started record in the 27th game of the year. Barring no injury, they're going to break that. They are on pace to break the record for most games started consecutively in the 3rd game of the year. Barring no injury, Loyer and Smith are both going to break that. And by the way, TK will actually, I'm sorry, the first one was games started. Second one was consecutive games started. Games played, Loyer, Smith, and TKR are all on pace to break that in the 32nd game of the year. Just some mind-boggling stats. And oh, by the way, Smith is going to end up, even if we look at things that, we think about assist with him. He's on pace to finish 7th all-time in points at Purdue. He's on pace to finish in the top 10 in steals at Purdue. Like, dude is just a baller, man.
He might be pretty good at basketball. And supposedly, he might even be good without Zach Edey, as we kind of learned last season. There's Braden Smith has entered into that conversation of just what are you supposed to say about him at this point? He can do everything you want from a point guard. He is the best passer in the country. Last season with Zach Edey gone, right? His first year without Zach Edey, and I think this is more of a casual fan take. than maybe the media. But there you heard a lot of like, oh, he won't be able to do anything now, right? Like he's Edey made. With the first season without Zach Edey, he increased his assist rate by 6%, ended up with the second highest in the entire country, and decreased his turnover rate. He was asked to run more pick and rolls with more defensive attention and focus and pressure, asked to take more shots, asked to play more minutes, asked to take more of a beating, and he was more efficient, like in terms of facilitating the ball. He has developed a counter for everything that you want to throw at him. If you want to play drop coverage, he will kill you in the mid range, or he'll find TKR in the short roll. And they're, the best 2-man game in the country, in my opinion. You want to hard hedge him? All right, cool. He's going to drag out the big. He's going to hit TKR in the short roll. Or if you're going to send low man help, he's skipping it to the corner to one of the shooters that's there. You want to switch? Cool. Let me take this big on a dance and just go 1-on-1, get downhill. Got to the free throw line a little bit, not a super high rate. You double team him right, and he trusts his guys to be able to go make a play. Like it just doesn't matter what you do against Braden Smith at this point. Like it is more of just you can't. He's at the point where you just have to hope he makes a mistake, and he doesn't make many of them, or you hope that he misses a shot, and even that he doesn't. He makes a lot of the shots that he does take. So. It's just he's just at that point where it's just like, all right, what else are you supposed to say about him at this? Like arguably, he will be one of the best players in college basketball for sure. Arguably the best basketball player in college, or best basketball player in college basketball. And Purdue is going to go where he goes. Yeah.
And I knew coming into this, right? Braden, Fletcher, but especially Braden, like there's not a whole lot we can break down and be like, this is what Braden's going to do for Purdue. This is where Braden can improve, because there's just not a lot to talk about there, if we're going to be honest about it. But I do have a couple of questions about Braden for you. Number one, the addition of Daniel Jacobson being back in the lineup, Oscar Clough being back in the lineup. What do you think that means specifically for Braden as he's operating this offense?
I don't know if it changes things too much. It honestly, it gives him another option, especially in Clough, who is, I think, probably more proven than Jacobson. Jacobson, we talked about on the Big Show, I think has the higher ceiling, but he still may need a little bit of time to fully develop. Right? You think back to last season, we love Caleb Furst on the show. Caleb Furst was not treated as an offensive threat, and so even just simply having Clough, who you have to respect down low. Right, Purdue doesn't maybe have to operate much differently, but now instead of playing at times 4-on-5, it is back to being 5-on-5. And so if they want to send help off of Clough, Braden's going to be able to hit him. Also, I think Clough especially is another guy that's a very good screener, a very good roller. It does it a little bit differently than TKR per se, but like I think it just gives him more optionality in terms of how he's able to facilitate and creates. Like we'll talk about it later, but we'll start with the core four of Braden, Fletch, TKR, and Clough. Like, where are you sending help from? And whoever's the fifth guy is all guys I think that we trust too. So it's just, I think, stylistically, I don't know if it changes things too much, but it just gives Braden more optionality and it puts defenses in that much more of a bind.
Yeah, you said something interesting there, that whoever the fifth guy is somebody that we all trust. And I think we're going to get to that conversation later, but I think that's a great point. Like, there's been a lot of debate of which of those three is going to end up starting, but probably the most important thing in that conversation is, regardless of who it is, it's somebody that Purdue can trust to go out there and excel at a high level. And that's the most exciting part when we think about that. So my other question for you about Braden is, let's assume, like, we know he's on this trajectory to break the Big Ten record in all-time assists for sure. If he can maintain or raise his assist average and get to, a handful of postseason games, really good chance he breaks Bobby Hurley's record. If that happens, to be in the conversation of top point guard of all time, is there anything else you feel like he has to do to solidify him in that argument?
I think he has to go on another deep run. Like, I'm not the biggest historical guy in terms of knowing all the stats and players, so people can come at me if I do misspeak. But like thinking in terms of Big Ten, at least in recent, we'll say this century, right? I would assume, excluding Braden and what he's been able to do so far, like Cassius Winston was probably kind of the unanimous, like the best point guard in the Big Ten, at least modern history, right? You can go back to like Magic and stuff like that. Um, I do think Braden needs, if he can break, like, the perfect year, obviously, is breaking the assist record, National Player of the Year. And if they win a championship, I don't like, he's just simply probably the best college point guard to play, at least in the Big Ten, and has to be in talks in terms of probably nationally ever. I know there are guys that probably have won multiple championships, so kind of how you value different things. But even just like a Final Four run, Big Ten Player of the Year, All American, and like Big Ten assist record, he will have a case for best Big Ten point guard of all time.
Yeah, that's rarefied air when you're talking about him with Magic. So it's hard to like get in that conversation. I think if he breaks the all-time assist record and they win a national championship, it's going to be really hard not like this singular thing that point guards are most supposed to do is create for everybody else, right? So if he owns that record and then he gets a national championship after being runner-up 2 years ago, I think it would be very, very hard to not call him one of the top 3 or 4 point guards in history, if not the best. Now, right, Oscar Robertson, I think, averaged a triple-double through college as a point guard. So, like if we go back to the 60s, so...
Yeah, maybe the conversation is better as like the best modern point guard of whatever you kind of, modern, I don't know where exactly that cutoff falls. Or one of like, right, because it can get weird when you go far back and you don't want to like exclude those guys either. But
right,
Braden Smith is incredibly good.
Yeah.
That's my summary.
And a lot does go into like how much do you value team statistics, like winning and all that sort of stuff. Because somebody mentioned in the chat that Bobby Hurley won 2 titles and a third Final Four. But it depends on how you value all those sort of different things. If he owns that record, then I think it comes up at least. He's in the conversation at least. Yeah,
and quickly jumping in case anybody randomly is trying to clip farm. This is all theoretical. Like Braden has to go out and do these things. He is not in that. Yes. He is not in that conversation yet. He's creeping, but if for whatever reason he has a poor year, which none of us think's going to happen, like he's not already in that conversation. He has to get there.
Yeah, we started this with what does he have to do to be in that conversation. Now, of course, if anybody is trying to clip farm, they can clip all of that, like that we said before and that we said after. But whatever. Hey, let's keep going. Let's talk Fletcher Loyer. One of the best shooters in the country. I think during the Big Ten stretch, right, there was a stretch where he definitely was the best shooter in the country last year. A guy that comes in, like we said, many of those records that we talked about with Braden in terms of games started, games played, going to break those records. If he keeps on his current pace in terms of 3 points attempted and made, he should finish second. Although there is this, like, between him and Braden, there's been a little bit of a shift last year when Braden started shooting more threes. There's a chance that Braden could actually finish second. Fletcher could finish third in Big Ten history, or not Big Ten, Purdue history, and 3-pointers made. But an elite, deadly shooter who's been a 3-year starter going into his 4th year. One of the things that I talked about when I put that tweet thread out is between Fletcher, Braden, and TKR, looking at total points scored in their career as a trio, they erase, like they just blow away any senior trio that Purdue has ever had in terms of total points scored between the 3 of them. And that's going, like, if they average that through their senior year. But Fletcher's a guy you can trust. Purdue trust him to run the offense, trust him to run the right plays. I think he has the biggest leadership role on this team. You just watch him in practice. You watch him during games. He seems to be the guy that gets in everybody's ear, brings everybody together, calms everybody down. I don't think that can be overlooked at all. But just talk a little bit about what you expect out of Fletch this year, especially since we've brought a couple of different guys in, and you got some guys going sophomore to junior jump. We've seen some things out there in the Twitter sphere, and you and I are big time Fletch guys and believe in the intangibles that Fletch brings to this team. But Fletch always seems to be the guy that's catching a little bit of strays from some Purdue fans on Twitter about, well, maybe he won't actually be starting mid-year, yada, yada, yada.
If he's not starting, like, that's because, like, if he's not starting, Purdue is probably undefeated and like clear cut title favorites, because that means like two of CJ, Meyer, and Jakari are so good that it's like, all right, Loyer, come off the bench. No, Loyer, man, like, right, and I'll save. Well, the defense is the big thing, right? Struggles defensively. We'll hit on that more. We're going to talk through kind of like rotations and things like that. I think it's probably a little bit more relevant there. So we will hit on that. I'm not ignoring that part of the game. But like, again, last year without Zach Edey, right? He was supposed to be a guy that, supposedly he's going to shoot worse because he's not getting as many good looks. Shot the exact same percentage from three last year as he did for sophomore year. 29th in the country, 4th in the Big Ten. Increased his 2-point percentage by nearly 10 percentage points. Shot over 50% on pull-up twos in the mid-range, increased his foul rate, got to the free throw line a good bit, decreased his turnover rate. Like, the pure raw averages maybe don't go insanely up because he was an incredibly good freshman and sophomore, but like, he still improved on the margins and improved in some of those areas that you want to see him improve in, where, all right, he's still making the right reads offensively. He's still getting to a shot. Yes, he is not somebody that's going to finish well at the rim, but developed the pull-up mid-range and developed the floater and did a good job of getting to the free throw line, which really, like, outside of TKR, I think last year, like, nobody else really got to the free throw line that consistently. CJ did it actually a little bit too. So looking through the numbers, but regardless, like, he's able to do all those things, is one of the best shooters in the country. I put out the stat, right, where he shot, what did he shoot? He shot over 50% on catch and shoot threes last season, the best rate in the entire Big Ten. And then, as you said, he has some of the intangibles where it feels like he's, sort of a coach on the floor at times. He really understands the offense and defense too. Like, yes, physically he has his limitations. He knows where he's supposed to be defensively and able to do that way. Just like, yeah, there's something for the experience that you talked about too. He has started 110 games in college, getting into his senior year, all at Purdue. He has played in a national title game. He has won Big Ten championships. Like, he has all this experience too, and I don't think that is something that can be overlooked.
Right, and 40% 3-point shooter on his career. One of the things that jumped out to me when I was like trying to go through and look at all these potential records and everything in terms of where they might sit in Purdue history, I was blown away by how many more free throws Fletcher has taken than Braden. Because I think about Braden like driving to the rim off of that pick and roll, but usually it's, I guess, when Braden gets that seam, he blows by and goes. Like, he's not getting contact near as much. Fletcher's seeking contact out a lot of times. And a lot of times he gets a crazy and one, and you're like, how in the world did he get that? Like, how did that shot go? But I'm 100% with you just about the intangibles that he brings, the leadership that he brings on this team. And I would guarantee if you would have this conversation with Painter, and I'm sure we will before the season starts, like we normally do. One of the things you talked about, Fletcher having some physical limitations. I think one of the things that probably Painter really appreciates is Fletcher normally 99% of the time understands his physical limitations. And you'll hear Painter talk about, like, do what you're good at, do what you excel at, do what you can do. Don't try to do things that you haven't proven in practice you can't do, right? And Fletcher usually sticks to that plan in the game. Every once in a while he tries something and you're like, oh, nope, not your game, but not very often. And when you do that, you have those high efficiency marks like Fletcher does across the board. So let's jump in. I know everybody wants to hear us talk about Omar, but we're going to talk about the two guys that are coming back. we know historically freshman to sophomore jump tends to be the biggest. Now we're coming off a year where there was big expectations for freshman to sophomore jump from a couple of wings that maybe didn't happen. So it has to like actualize. Just because we say a freshman to sophomore jump is going to happen doesn't mean that it's going to happen. But there's two guys that performed really, really well last year. Both of them had some big time moments, whether that was CJ in the Alabama game, Jakari in a couple of games where he shut some people down defensively, that are going to come back and have the opportunity for that freshman to sophomore jump. And I want to talk about CJ Cox first here, because he starts last year 23 games out of 36 as a freshman. Prior to Braden and Fletcher's year, like I remember just the conversation until you start to hear tidbits out of people who are around Purdue's practice. Nobody had that on their radar, really. Now, I know, Joe, you've said, I watched Braden Smith film and I was like, he's starting. But you're a savant. Most of us aren't, okay? But, like, freshmen, it's hard for freshmen to start in the guard position at Purdue historically. Carson Edwards didn't start right away, right? So, like, CJ starts 23 games last year. That speaks a lot about what he can do. He's a guy that can just get on fire. We saw that in the Alabama game. He's got an incredible pull-up game. His stroke, to me, is one of the 3 or 4 prettiest strokes, just pure shooting form, in my years of watching Purdue back to the 80s. He's not going to get a ton of opportunities because the ball's going to go through Fletch, Braden, Clough, TKR. I should put TKR ahead of any of those people on that list before like CJ really gets his shot. But he is efficient in small burst a lot of times, which sometimes is really important for that fifth guy. What do you see in terms of what CJ brought to Purdue last year and maybe what he might do as a sophomore coming into this jump year?
Yeah, I mean, he filled his role, and that's what he's going to have to do this year too, is right in the 2027 season. That's where we could really start seeing these guys like spread their wings and really take off. But at some point, there's one basketball and there's only so many minutes in a game. And so there's only so many possessions. And then CJ's a good guy that's like probably more, his talent warrants probably a little bit higher usage than what he's going to get, but just kind of how the cookie crumbles. And that's how you end up competing for a national championship is you have guys like CJ being in theory your 4th or 5th option offensively when he's on the floor. Like that's a very, very, very good 4th or 5th option, depending on how you rank him and Clough comparatively. Yeah, I mean, he shot the ball really well from 3, 40% from 3 on the year. Emerged as a really good defensive player, and Purdue's probably best perimeter defensive player, depending on how you value Braden Smith's off-ball defense. Best on-ball defender for sure in terms of what he's able to do, right? And I still think that we could see a jump from that because I don't think, like, I don't think he's like overly athletic or he's like really, gotten into what his body will be in college. Like, I think there's a lot of room for him to develop in that area where he's probably going to become a little bit quicker. He's probably going to become a little bit stronger. And so now, even on some of the places where he is maybe a half step behind, like those are going to start, that margin is going to start narrowing just as he continues to develop. So he's going to be able to take another step there. Needs to just kind of keep shooting the ball. And then for him, I consistency is kind of where I'm at with him, but also he's in such a spot where it's like it's hard for him to be consistent because he just isn't given the consistent reps, right? Like he shot 33% on pull-up twos last year. It's not like he shot awesome on pull-ups, but when he did, it felt like it was like multiple in a row, and he just was kind of like taking games over, right? Like the Bama game especially. Also really liked and this was the part of this game I was not expecting. Did he? Again, limited volume, all that, but did a good job of getting downhill, getting to the line, getting to the rim and converting. I thought that was going to be an area he struggled coming in, but he was, again, limited volume, and he has the benefit of playing off Braden and TKR, but was good in that area. Also a good positional rebounder. So I think for him, just continuing in those areas, if he's a 3-and-D wing or 3-and-D guard, whatever, knock down threes, pick up full court, defend perimeter players, and just kind of be able to flip it on when his number's called.
Yeah, and I mean, CJ was Purdue's jammer all year last year, the entire time he was starting. It was either him or Jakari, meaning the guy that's picking up the ball, coming down the court, trying to pick it up in the backcourt a lot of times, jam, slow things down, just keep them from initiating in their offense. And I don't remember what game it was, but, everybody thinks about that Bama game. But there was another game, might have been Ole Miss, but I'm not positive, where he gets a couple of steals in the backcourt, like 2 steals in like 3 or 4 plays, and was just pumped up and screaming and rolling. And there's a chance he becomes even more of that guy. And I guarantee you, Cabo, Purdue's strength coach, has gotten a hold of him and just made him that much stronger and quicker in this offseason. Moving into Jakari, and a lot of times, Jakari and CJ get lumped together because they both came in as freshmen. Jakari starts, first 5 games, and then CJ ends up starting, later in the year. Jakari came in with all this promise of could be one of Purdue's best defending guards that we've seen here. And there were some early on, individually one-on-one on ball, the defense looked good, but there were some times where maybe rotations or who he was supposed to cover here or there based upon Purdue's principles didn't necessarily look like they were there by the end of the year. And we've heard, again, Raphael talk about this multiple times, but Jakari, CJ, both, it just seemed like they weren't thinking about what they were supposed to do so much. They were just naturally and instinctively going to that spot. So it seemed better, and expect big things from that. His shooting wasn't there in the beginning of the year. And you talked about him coming in as a guy that could consistently shoot. It wasn't there the first couple of months, but the last couple of months of the year, he shoots 40% from 3. Have we seen a transition where Jakari is more comfortable shooting the ball? Do you expect this to be consistently that he's going to be a 37% or higher type of guy? I just ruined one of my buy or sell moments, I just realized, by asking that question. But has he turned the corner, do you think, offensively? And is this what we're going to see?
So I'm going to preface this by saying I was incredibly high on Jakari coming into the season. I had him as a starter once I watched the film. And so there is part of me that's still just with how I value players, and especially the first season, it's I still draw a little bit on the high school film of no, I that player is in there, and I think that player is still in there for Jakari. Like you said, he shot smaller sample size, 17 of 42, but that's 40.5% from 3 after January 1st. He was a really good defender, especially after January 1st, as well. And kind of, I just think he probably got thrown in a bit too quickly. And part of it was because he probably looked really good in the summer. And then just kind of once the games happened, it was a little too fast for him. Seemed like he, like you said, just had to process things a little bit slower. And so I say all that to say, I still think a really good player is in there, and a guy that, similar to CJ, I think he might be a bit better than what his usage and his numbers will show this season, just given how loaded Purdue is. I still think he can be pretty easily, not easily because CJ is very good, but I think he can be Purdue's best perimeter defender. And I think we'll talk about it with the rotations, right? I think CJ's CJ's a little bit better player, offensive player right now. I think Jakari's a little bit better defensive player. Both are good in both of those areas. I think, like you said, just shot the ball well for 3. I just buy it. I buy that Jakari Harris that we saw in January, some of February and March, that's closer to what we will see going forward. And now he's been in the system for a year and can take a jump. Right. He's still probably at the back end of the rotation, without us really knowing how summer workouts are going. He's probably still closer to the back end of the rotation, but I think has the opportunity to kind of emerge as a top perimeter defender.
I agree 100%. And I can't wait to see what both of those guys do. I think it's going to be really important for Purdue fans to realize, hey, there's like you said, they're going to probably be the 4th or 5th option a lot of times on the court offensively. So what advancement means, what increased just getting better, having that sophomore jump for these two this year may just be a matter of being more efficient in the minutes that you get, being more efficient in the shots that you get, because there's just not going to be a ton of opportunity to just blow up in those regards. And then just becoming even better perimeter defenders. And we've got back in defense now with Clough and Jacobson. If one of those two can step up and be an elite perimeter defender, that can be the thing that puts this Purdue team over the hump for me in terms of definitely being the national championship favorite. Let's go ahead and talk about who everybody wants to talk about in terms of new guy, right? Omar Meyer comes to us from Israel, coming off of 2 stints with different Israeli teams, one in FIBA, one in Eurocup. Had some really good showings in those games. We know he played with Travion Williams professionally in Israel, played against Carson Edwards. There's been a lot of hype around him, and for good reason. We've seen moments where he's looked absolutely electric as a shooter, as a facilitator, brings a lot of things offensively as he comes into this Purdue team. I've seen some takes of, going to be a first-round pick next year. He's a one and done. I think sometimes we've maybe gotten a little bit carried away as a fan base in terms of looking at 1 or 2 games of him popping off. But I don't want to dampen the parade at all or dampen the excitement at all on this kid, because he is extremely, extremely good and going to do great things at Purdue. Just talk to us a little bit, Joe, about what Meyer brings to this Purdue team.
Yeah, he is a guy that is, to me, a true combo guard of he can play on ball, he can play off ball, he consistently is able to create advantages, which is something I value a lot in terms of guard creation of, right? It's one thing to just like drive and take a contested layup and, hopefully you have good enough touch to make them. But like he has that ability to like, oh, he's in the paint and the defense now has to collapse. And when the defense collapses, that's where it's right. You see Braden do it a lot, and I'm not comparing Meyer to Braden's skill level or anything, but like Meyer can get into the paint like that and then spray from there to whoever's on the on the wing or the corner, or can hit a roller. Like he has the ability to kind of just move defenses with his ability to run on ball with in terms of pick and rolls, or right if he's playing off ball and he's attacking closeouts and getting to his spots, like that's going to be tough for defenses who now have to rotate. And now he's going to be able to take advantage of that. I think he's a very good facilitator, makes good decisions with the ball, has some of the flair in terms of just like turnovers are going to happen at times. And that's something he'll have to rein in, especially this season where it's just like every possession is so valuable because of how good offensively Purdue will be. But just understands the game. Like I don't think it takes a lot of film to see like, oh yeah, like that's a Purdue guy. Like that makes sense that he ended up choosing Purdue. Big thing will be defensively. He isn't the quickest laterally. He has really strong legs, I think, and that helps him, and just a strong frame in general, and that helps him absorb a lot of contact on drives. But I think he has pretty stiff hips, and so what that means is like it takes him a little bit more to really be able to open up and slide laterally and keep the guys in front. And kind of honestly, where that ends up will probably decide like how good he is in year 1 or not. Doesn't need to be defensive player of the year or anything like that, but just needs to be solid enough to be able to stay in front. But he's just good shooter, good in the mid range. I'm concerned about the interior finishing right away. I don't think he's a great finisher at the rim right away, but can do everything else. And yeah, like whether he's starting, coming off the bench, he'll run some of the Braden Smith backup point guard minutes. Like he is somebody that just fits in, I think, really well.
Yeah, and one of the things I'm most excited about is just there's been some talk about, okay, maybe Braden Smith's minutes come down. We're going to have a minutes conversation later. What did he average? 37 minutes a game last year. I can see a world where maybe that dips down 2 minutes a game and he gets to like 35 minutes a game. Quite frankly, just because I think Purdue's going to blow a lot of people out this year, even maybe some teams in Big Ten play where they get to sit a little bit more. But I don't think in competitive games, I just don't see a world where Painter doesn't have Smith out there for 36, 37 minutes in a game. What I am excited about, and what we saw a little bit last year in spurts with either Jakari or CJ, was Braden getting a rest from initiating and starting the offense, even while he was on the court. So it's not bench rest, right? But you're still taking a little bit of pressure off of him in terms of what he's having to do on the court, how much he's getting pressured and harassed over and over and over again. And I think even in those combinations where Meyer and Smith are on the court together, there's some opportunity to be like, all right, Meyer's going to initiate, right? We're going to put Braden off ball a little bit here, give Braden a play off of initiating, starting, trying to create for everybody else. I'm really excited about that. I asked you about the positives. I agree with all of those positives. I want to say that first before I bring anything up negative whatsoever, or things that I have questions about, because I don't want it to sound like I'm not super excited about him. I think he's going to be a great addition. I think he's going to do great things, whether he's a starter, whether he comes off the bench. You mentioned the defensive questions. Just watching the international play, it never felt like he was guarding the other team's best perimeter offensive player. Now, maybe that's because he had to do so much offensively and they were trying to save him. Maybe not. You know, I don't know one way or another. I think we'll see that as it comes into season, what he can do defensively. My other big question is, he's been a volume shooter his entire time on those Israeli teams. And we've seen these swings where he shoots a super high percentage, and then the next game maybe shoots a pretty low percentage, especially from three, and just kind of goes up and down a little bit of a roller coaster when it comes to actual efficiency. But it all balances out because of the volume that he gets every game on those teams. So I guess one of the things I'm really interested to see, Joe, is when he comes onto this team, it's still like Braden Fletch TK, most likely, before Meyer is like that guy as maybe the fourth option. Is so as his shot count comes down, will he be able to maintain that efficiency is one thing that I'm really, really interested in.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair question. I think I have less concern just because I assume he's going to be bought into some degree into the system, or else he's probably not going to, play a ton. And so assuming he is, his looks are just going to be easier. Like where he's, instead of having to be the primary creator, now he's playing against bent defenses where it's, oh, Braden Smith just threw a missile to me on the wing, skip pass, and now I have to just beat a guy that's 5 feet away closing out. But I do think that's fair in general, right? He is a high volume guy. I think he works well off ball, but like especially this last year of the FIBA play, like he was way more on ball, and so there is some of that too. I think it's a good problem to have. It's basically just asking him to be like, hey, please just buy into the system and we'll get you good shots. Like you don't have to force the bad ones. Or not even the bad ones,
I guess
the tougher ones.
Right. And one thing I want to make clear is I'm not saying I expect him to be less efficient. I'm just interested to see if he can be, right? Like that's going to be a big thing that I'm looking for early on as to whether he can maintain that. You just brought up another really good point, though, about tough shots. Last year, it didn't feel at times like Purdue had a guard to go to hit those ultra tough shots. Braden can, but he's not the biggest guy in the world. So sometimes in those super late shot clock situations, one-on-one, it's a little bit harder for him to get his shot off. The year before, it felt like a lot of times Lance was kind of that guy to throw up that crazy tough shot. And a lot of times Lance would hit him, Lance had a little bit more size, a little bit more athleticism, maybe. You bring Meyer in here. I do think one thing he does at 6'4" and just with his strength and muscle and the amount of time that he's spent shooting tough shots as the primary offensive weapon that's a focal point all the time on those Israeli teams is his comfortability in doing that. So I think that's another thing he brings to this team.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point.
Okay. I knew the guard show was going to be longer than the big show, but we got to start moving. Antoine West Jr. comes in. I think he was ranked in the 130s, maybe coming in terms of composite ranking. Guy with good size that I think is 6'3" or 6'4" listed. You remember off the top of your head?
3, I believe.
Yeah, 6'3", he looks bigger than some other guys listed as 6'3" on this Purdue team. I'll just say that. In the couple of practices that I saw, really harassed some people. Kind of got after Braden a couple of times. Saw him pick his pocket once or twice. You've heard Painter comparing to Carson Edwards in terms of a guy that can just get on hot streaks as a shot maker. He's not a guy to me that I look at, and in terms of just like shot form, just like sticks out to me like a guy like CJ did. In terms of just the purity of the shot form itself. But he's a shot maker. He can get on these runs where he hits boom, boom, boom over and over and over again, similar to Carson. Do you see a path for West to get minutes on this team? Is that path, if he can be that bigger, more physical defensive stopper as a guard?
Yeah, I think that's what it would have to be. It's just his defense is like clearly better than CJ and or Jakari, or at least one of them, where he can kind of eat into those minutes and maybe be a little bit more of like a certain situations type player. He is talented enough to be in this rotation. I will say that. Like, I think in terms of how I view him coming out of high school compared to CJ and Jakari, I think he's on a similar level to those two. And so he has the skill and the ability. It's just he's got a lot of guys to go through, and we'll talk about that, I think, coming up next. But it's got to be the defense if it does. He's Foreman posted. He has a 6'8.5" wingspan. Nuts. That is a plus 5.5 with shoes, and Foreman said he's 6'2" without shoes, so plus 6.5 wingspan. Like, that is nuts to have as a guard, and that's where the defense, like some of the pickpocketing or just getting hands in passing lanes, things like that. Even if he is 6'3" or whatever, that might be why he just looks bigger, is he can just like eat up more space with kind of his arms and his ability to move. So I also like, right, with the Carson comparison and that, I think he has that ability to kind of like CJ too, of just like getting on one. Now, I even said like in a lot of my write-ups and stuff, like I think he's streaky right now as a shooter, very streaky, but like he can get on one quickly, and he has a ton of confidence in his game. I think a good enough handle. He I think fits more of the CJ Jakari mold of can handle when needed, not a primary handler. Yeah. So I really like the ceiling and the upside with Wes. It's just how many minutes can he get on a team that's has as many options as they do?
Right. That takes us to Jack Benter, essentially the Cam Heidi of this year's team. Last year, Cam was the only one that we talked about in the big room and in the guard room. We've seen, Painter talk about trying to find minutes for him at the 4. He's played minutes at the 3. If you watch a practice, he'll switch back and forth. He's a guy at 6'6" that has really good size, fits that, Sasha type of role. Ryan Klein type of role is a bigger wing that can shoot very, very well from the outside. He's tough. The thing I've noticed from both practices is he will mix it up, and he's a coach's kid, and like he gets down there and grinds. He'll take a shot to his face. I think that's why maybe there's a chance he sees some small ball minutes at the 4 when Purdue wants to go that way. With this loaded guard room, he's probably the only true wing, right, on this team.
Yeah. That's how I would classify. Like, I think Meyer's like more of a combo. Loyer's maybe the next closest argument, but like he's more of just like a 2 guard that plays the 3. Benner's the only one kind of with that size where he can in theory play a couple different positions.
Yeah. Do you see his best path getting on the court, playing the 4 when Purdue wants to play small ball, or do you think there's opportunities for him to get in at the 3 spot this year?
I don't see it at the 3 much. I think it'd be similar to like honestly Wes's pathway of like maybe if CJ or Jakari don't take that sophomore leap, and Benner's just kind of shooting the ball so well, or you have shooting the ball so well that he just kind of has to find his way on the floor. Or if Meyer doesn't quite pan out right away, like it feels like for him it's probably more of like other guys also can't really take a step, and he has to be good to be able to get those minutes at the 3, rather than like him just for sure getting them. But I think the pathway at the 4 makes more sense to me.
Yeah, and I personally think Painter's going to figure out a way to get Benner some minutes. I'm just not exactly sure where it is. I'm with you. I see more the opportunity at the 4. I'm gonna put you on the hot seat right now as we move to our next segment. Here, let's talk starting lineup. It's been much debated. You and I have beat around the bush a couple of different times about it. Could be this, it could be that. Da 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 da. Right now, you're guessing. Best guess. Come November, who's our starting lineup 1 through 3? 2 of the spots, I would hope, are pretty easy to figure out.
I think Braden Smith might start. Fletch, and then all the discussion is more or less about this 3rd spot, and then there'll be some people that say Fletch shouldn't start. I think Fletch should start. I think if people that want to argue that probably just want to argue he should just play less minutes, which I think that's a more reasonable debate. I'm gonna go CJ. I'm gonna go CJ. I do not think CJ starts the whole year. I think at some point it switches to whether it be Jakari or Meyer, and it might switch back to CJ at some point too. I think it does at some point. Am I lagging?
Okay. I'm getting a little bit frozen up, and I'm not sure if it's on your end or my end, but I did just switch houses. And this is my first test run going live on StreamYard. So I'm not plugged in. I'm trying it off the Wi-Fi here tonight. So I apologize if that's me. I will try to make sure that I'm plugged in for the next time that we go live. But I'm with you. I think it's CJ to start the year. I think Painter, if it's not broke, don't fix it a little bit mold of Purdue looked pretty good down the end of the stretch last year. CJ started a lot of games. They had some good moments. He did some things efficiently as being that 4th or 5th option on the floor at all times. I guess for me, my biggest thing is even with Jacobson and Clough, kind of backing up everything else on the back end of things, I still think there needs to be a plus level perimeter defender on the court with Fletch and Braden, or Braden and Omar, or Omar and Fletch at all times. So to me, that's got to be CJ or Jakari. And if Meyer can show that he has the defensive chops to do that, I'm right now, I'm just like, man, if you're the 4th or 5th option, then you better be bringing it defensively. You better be adding defensive upside. Somebody's got to be the jammer. Somebody's got to lock down. To me, Meyer's got to show that he can do that between now and January before he becomes the starter. That's just my personal opinion as of right now. But obviously, Braden Fletch, I don't think there's any world where Fletch doesn't start. Unless there was some like epic type of slump at some month in this year. And I still don't know if he wanted
even then,
at least start and would just lose some minutes,
Yeah. Like I don't know. I could if you were to ask me to put percentages on it, I would say like, it's probably like a 38% chance, or I should keep the number simple. 40% chance that CJ starts. And then 30% that Meyer or Jakari starts or something. Like they're all right there of like, would not be. I don't think there's a ton that differentiates the 3 of them in terms of overall productivity. There are nuances to the game that differentiate themselves. But they're all, I think they're all very, very viable options.
Yeah. And again, as I talked about earlier, I think that's the most exciting part about this. Like, right, if it's CJ or Jakari, we're talking about guys that started on a team that went to the Sweet 16 and pushed Houston to the last point of the game last year, right? If it's not one of those two, that means a guy that came in as a freshman is outperforming one of those two. So no matter what happens there, I think you should be excited about it. Okay. As we look at those different groupings, and I guess I kind of got into it talking about needing defensive upside. Is there on those groupings of like Braden, Fletch, CJ, Jakari, Omar, let's just focus on those 5 guys. Is there anything that would concern you about a specific grouping of 3 or something that you see really gelling well from a specific grouping of those 3, whether it's the starters or a group of non-starters compared to last year to this year that jumps out?
Yeah, I mean, I think the easier part, and I'll start with, is CJ or Jakari. Like either to me, they're more or less interchangeable. CJ, you get a little bit more offensive production. Jakari, I think they're both really good defenders. In terms of concerns, I don't think there's many concerns other than like if teams really force the ball out of Braden's hand. Like basically, if teams are like, all right, we are selling out on Braden and TKR, we are making everybody else beat us. Like somebody's got to be able to get the ball to Clough or create their own shots. So that's the only concern with CJ and Jakari. But the upside then there is, hey, defensively they can pressure, they can pick up the best player, things like that, and they know the system, they fit in. In terms of looking at Meyer, Loyer, Smith, like the concern is the defense. We'll talk because I'm looking at the doc. I'll save a little bit of that defensive talk for later because I think it fits in better. But that is the concern of like, can Meyer be able to be that guy? Can Clough and Jacobson do enough where it's fine? But on the flip side of that, like I think that's the highest upside trio, and it might be by a wide bit of like, if it works, those 3 work so well together offensively to me of like, I do not know how teams choose to guard. Like that means teams have to choose to put their 3rd worst perimeter defender on one of those 3, or one of Loyer or Meyer. And like, yeah, I would, if I'm Purdue, I would take that bet every single time that you're going to be able to figure it out. So I guess CJ Jakari is a little bit higher floor, and Meyer is the higher ceiling.
Yeah.
Now
I really like how
I'll let you go. I was talking for a while.
No, you're fine. I really like how you frame that though. I think freshman to sophomore jump, Jakari and CJ is a high floor. And one of 2 things. If Meyer becomes that 3rd guy, then that means one of 2 things has happened. Either he's shown that he can really up his defensive game and deserves to be on the court, and you have all the things he can do offensively. We think, right? To be clear, we still haven't seen him do a single time against Big Ten talent. I haven't even gotten to see it in practice yet against Purdue, let alone Big Ten talent. But we think about what he can do offensively. On the other side of that also is maybe he doesn't show that he can be CJ Jakari level defender, but Clough and DJ just show that they are that good on the backside that it doesn't matter. And it allows him to take this team to a different offensive level if he's starting. So I'm excited regardless, man. I'm just excited about the different options we can have out there. I was talking to somebody that was at practice the other day, and it was a lineup that didn't even have Smith on the floor at the time of 3 guards, and them talking about how electric it was. So, go ahead.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, we probably should also talk like Loyer is not playing 40 minutes a game. And so we probably should mention like, right. That's where I don't see CJ and Jakari sharing the floor together too much.
Right.
Or if they do, like it's in the couple minutes, I guess, where I don't know. I just don't see that happening too much, where I think it's a lot of would be obviously Braden and then Meyer plus one of those 2. And that is in a really intriguing group too, because that's kind of the blend of everything where, right, Loyer has, like, you don't quite get the shooting that Loyer has and the shooting gravity and the decision making that he always has, but you get more upside in terms of playmaking with Meyer while still getting that defensive boost from CJ and or Jakari, and that's where the argument for Loyer getting less minutes, I think is fair. Of like, if Meyer works and CJ and Jakari take this jump, like maybe you do knock Loyer's minutes, just not a ton, but just a few more, just to try to create kind of room for those guys and get that lineup in there a little bit more. Because now Braden, especially right where you get Loyer out of the game a little bit earlier, and now you bring in Meyer, and that's kind of acting as Braden's first quote unquote rest, like you said earlier, where he's still playing, but he's able to have a little bit less of the burden, where Meyer can take that a little bit while CJ or Jakari is still picking up full court, and get him rest that way. And then maybe Braden gets his minute off or two and Loyer comes back and yada, yada. You can go from there. But it like that one is also a really intriguing lineup, whichever kind of, however you want to put Jakari, CJ, and then Meyer.
Yeah. And I'd go even maybe a step further. I mean, one, obviously, whenever Braden's off the floor, I think it makes sense that Meyer's on the floor just as a creator.
Yeah.
But to me, if Fletcher or Braden is off the court, it just makes sense to Meyer be on the court most of those minutes. Just give another guy with that ultra confident shooting and creating, facilitating, all of those sort of things. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. The Kentucky exhibition, I saw somebody ask, I'm just going to go ahead and pull it up instead of wait till later. Do you think the lineup of Kentucky will be set as the set one, or more just Painter testing things out like before? I'm wondering if this year might be taken more seriously. I think one thing we've learned from the exhibition games so far is Painter's just throwing stuff out there and seeing what it looks like. I think they have a good mindset of where things are going to go, but we saw some rotations and matchups that in those exhibition games that we never saw again, except maybe the end of the Big Ten tournament game 2 years ago when it felt like Purdue just didn't want to be there anymore.
Well, and Painter admitted that in the media day the following year, without saying those exact words, but he did say that they just did not care about the Big Ten tournament at all. I got a question for you, like, and then I know we're kind of wrapping up and we can get to the last segment unless there was other things. Well, there's a couple things.
Yeah.
Do you see, so Braden's going to play 35 to 40 minutes, right? Do you see Braden's going to run, Braden's going to do his thing. So there's two other spots. Do you see it as more of like CJ and Jakari are going to play 40 minutes and then Loyer and Meyer are going to play 40 minutes? And then with, of course, Meyer getting the couple on the backside of Braden, or do you see it being a lot more interchangeable? Like, you get what I'm saying though, where it's a little bit more a 1-for-1 almost.
I think it really depends on, honestly, I think it really depends on what they think Benter is and what type of role he carves out. Because if they're like adamant on getting Benter minutes at the...
No. Okay, no, continue. Sorry.
No, I'm saying if they're adamant about Benter getting some minutes at the 3, then I think that changes the dynamic somewhat. But I really think, for me, it's Braden's going to get 35 to 37 minutes a game. Fletch is going to get around 30 minutes a game. So this takes us into our next segment of minutes, right? That was the next thing we were going to talk about. To me, Fletch is going to get close to 30. That's what he's averaged, right around there. Braden's going to get 35 to 37. He averaged 37 last year. So you've got 65 minutes there, right? And between those 3 positions, you've got 120 minutes. I think it's just up in the air then. Between CJ, Omar, and Jakari, those other 65 minutes are just up for grabs, and they will rotate guys around in whatever fashion. That lineup the lineup I heard about the other day, Jakari was running point and Omar was the 2 or the 3. So like, I think it can rotate around several different ways.
My Jakari point guard takes from last summer, they're coming through now. Yeah, I expect all three of CJ, Jakari, Meyer to average between 15 and 25 minutes. How exactly it gets broken up, I literally could not tell you. If I had to absolutely guess, it would be like basically a 20-20 split for CJ and Jakari, and then Meyer gets... No, it's probably like 20 CJ, 16 Jakari, or 18 and 18, and then Meyer gets whatever the leftover is. I could see... I do think Loyer drops to like 27, 28s. Just like a couple. Just a couple.
Yeah. Oh, well, this show just turned into an hour and a half show.
Don't
What's
don't
up,
go
Greg?
well. Don't make that noise.
What up, Greg?
How are you? I miss you guys.
Good. I miss you too, buddy.
Doing good.
How's Chicagoland?
It's good. It's good. This is the high stress time of the season for Chicago because the off season is over. So for Bears fans, we celebrate every off season as if we've won it. But then when regular season hits, we actually have to start backing up all the talk we've done. But we've stayed humble. We've stayed humble here, and football season kicks off tomorrow. Bears start on Monday. So, but we are like 30 days away. I think I saw you say, Kraig, from when Purdue plays at Rupp Arena.
50.
No, we would be 51 days away.
50 days? 50 days from Rupp
50
Arena.
days. 50 days. Yeah.
Right. So sorry.
It's getting close, buddy. It's getting close.
It's gonna move quick. It's gonna move quick. I'm definitely gonna try to make the trip to Rupp Arena. I definitely am gonna try that.
Bears don't play on Friday, so come on down.
Right. That's what I was thinking is, make a couple days out of it. I got a buddy that lives near Rupp Arena. We might be able to commandeer his entire house and everything that comes with it. We'll see. So
Nice.
Yeah, I saw you guys were doing your show. Wasn't gonna jump in during the meat and potatoes of it, but I figured once it got to the second hour, I was gonna come in and say hi. So I miss all you guys and everybody in the chat. So shout out to all of them. It's I'm excited. When I saw the recruit that Purdue secured yesterday, I'm in a meeting, pre-show meeting for a Bears show, and I just started laughing, and they were like, "What?" And I was like, Purdue just keeps it's never gonna stop. It's never going to end. This golden era that we've been in as Boilermaker fans, it's never going to end. It just sounds like it's gonna. That kid looks lengthy. I hear he's a good shooter. He's got length to him. Like, bring it on, man. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's to me, it's sustainable. He's built a system of like, I'm gonna go out. And to me, the NIL thing and transfer portal plays into Painter's hands because he wants to recruit out of high school. And some of these bigger programs are like, I'm gonna go get my elite players from the transfer portal. It's just made it easier for Painter to get more elite high school players into the program, and once they come, they don't leave very often, right? So he's going to develop those guys, and then Painter's going to grab one or two, not very many portal players to put around them to excel. And there's guys knocking on Purdue's door that are just at a ranking level that we haven't seen since, Robbie, Etwan, and Jawan.
Right, and it coincides with the way NIL is working in Purdue's favor, but also during a time period where, let's say, NIL wasn't even on the table, players are attracted to come to Purdue's program because he's not only proving he can get big men to have great careers in college that could set them up for professional careers, now guards as well. So he's showing the landscape of basketball players around the country that Purdue is a place you want to go to elevate yourself to make professional money playing basketball, whether that's at the NBA or overseas. So it's a perfect time right now to be a Purdue basketball fan. It's been a perfect time. I mean, pretty much since we started doing this show 6-7 years, I've lost track now, however many years we've been doing this. But it's exciting, guys. And however many, regardless, it's just been a lot of fun. And when I saw those recruits come down, I mean, I feel strongly about this year in terms of Purdue's opportunity to win a national championship, but just watching the recruiting trail and how things are going. And I know Joe will have his spreadsheet that breaks down each year and how this is all going to go. It's whether it's this year or whatever, it's only a matter of time. Purdue will win a national championship, and we will be covered. One day we will be doing a national championship post-game show where Purdue has the trophy and the confetti's flying down. I have zero doubt about that. So that's it. I just want to come and say hi.
I was waiting for Joe hadn't chimed in yet. Hey, when we go to the Cubs game, Greg? When we go in the Cubs game?
We don't have time. I don't have any time.
You told us that we were all going to a Cubs game this summer, Greg.
You know what? There goes Joe. There goes Kraig. I just can't. I can't do. I don't have time. I barely have time for anything. I'm sorry. but I miss
That's
you.
okay. The
I didn't
last
even
time,
get to see Joe came into my town and our town because he's from the region as well and played in a tournament. And I had every intention to go watch him play because I hear he's great. And then I missed the tournament because of training camp. No, don't be modest. Okay. If I played as good as you, every person on the planet would know it. So don't be modest. Okay. But it was during training camp. So didn't even get to see that. So
It's all good. It's all good. Happy to have you back on the show, though, Braggs.
all right. Well, I'll let you guys wrap it because I know if I stay on, it'll be a 2-hour show. You already did an hour. And so.
Well, here, I one question for you. Does Braden Smith break the NCAA assist record?
How many does he have to get?
300 and something.
So
he needs to.
That? Yeah. What's that?
If he averages his last year pace or averages the same as last year, he needs like 37 games played.
He needs 37.
He needs
games.
318 assists.
Ooh.
318 assists, averages last year's average. It would take 37 games. Purdue plays 31 in the regular season, not counting Big Ten tournament, NCAA tournament.
I hate saying it, but just with everything you guys have just broke down, right? And trying to get, Meyer as a guy that could potentially take some slack off of him, having to facilitate in certain spots. Like, I just don't think it's going to be Painter's priority to make sure he breaks that record. Now, if he has a couple games where he has 20 assists, that helps that average come down a little bit, where it's a little more attainable. But, man, you're right on the brink there, and this team's just got bigger fish to fry. And when you know the way Painter is as a coach, he's not worried about that. And Braden as a competitor, I think their goal is to win a national championship. So, unfortunately, when you break it down in those metrics, I think he'll be just short, but I won't leave it off the table. I could have done the meatball answer, but I gave you the
Look at that. Knew it. Braggs was in the lab this offseason, improving his game, it seems like, and he's gonna be ready, it looks like.
Yeah, I am ready. So all right, well, I'll let you guys go.
Well, you said something sensible, Joe. I was just
I'm sorry.
You said something sensible, Joe. I was just going to kick him out when he said no, but shoot.
My bad.
All right. Well, I'll go. You guys go back to doing what you guys do best. I love you guys, and I love all you in the chat. Excited to get back to Boiler and the Stands post-game shows here, and it'll be here before you know it. So talk to you later. Pray for my Bears for my well-being, so I go in with a happy mood into basketball season, and I bid you all farewell. Love you. Boiler up. Bear down.
Well, look at that. I was going to see if he wanted, because our last segment is the buy-sell segment. I was like, he might be able to do that, but he got out of here, so it works.
Yeah, I was going to put him on the spot on minutes.
Oh, okay.
Let me jump out and come back in because I must be lagging.
Uh-oh, that means it is just me. Oh, you're just literally meant that. Okay. Yeah, you want to get into some of the minutes? I think that we have that and then the buy sell, and then we get out of here.
Yeah. So, all right. So minutes. Just give me your breakdown between Jakari, CJ, Meyer. If you've got to do your best prediction right now. And one thing I should say to everybody listening is I don't think it would shock Joe or I at all. Zero amount if any of those three start. If any of those three lead between those three in minutes by the end of the season. It's great that we have all of these different tools between those three players to put on the court. This is just best prediction. Like, don't take any of this and be like, Joe said, Kraig said, like, it's going to play out, man. It's going to play out. But we're having fun here. Just best prediction. Give me your minutes on CJ, Jakari, and Omar.
And so, okay, because kind of my take on this, I think it's like Myers at like 15 maybe to start the year. I think he's probably closer to like 25 by the end of the year. So I'll call it a 20 average to be in the middle, but I do think you see him really ramp up throughout the season in terms of his minutes and production. And so with that, then I think CJ and Jakari, I'm going to put them both at like 18 a game, with Loyer at like 28, Braden at 35 to 37. I don't think the math 1000% checks out, but that's just kind of the ballpark that I see. Is I think Meyer eventually does emerge, but I don't think it's right away. And I do think CJ and Jakari both still get lots of minutes.
Yeah, for me, I think if you have Braden at 37, by the way, I'm pretty sure that math did work out. If you have him at 35, it doesn't.
There we go.
I'm just barely flipped from you. So I have CJ maintaining 20 minutes per game throughout the entire season. And then like I have Meyer and Harris at 17, 18 minutes a game between the two of them. And part of that is the same thing as you, like closing the game. You know, Painter talks a lot about like starting the game shouldn't be that big of a deal. Closing the game should be the big part of the deal. And I think there's real potential for Meyer to be out there closing some of these games, especially if they have the lead and don't have to create defensive turnovers, that type of thing. I just feel like we're going to get into the jump this season. Meyer didn't get here right until whatever. The part of August where Purdue quit practicing. They've got to play together just a few times as a total team. They'll ramp up here soon, but he's got a short window to learn everything. They're going to play some highly competitive games early on in this year where you're not really going to just be throwing out test situations. So I think that's where I'm at. I think CJ ends up around 20, the other two around 17, 18 minutes a game. All right, so let's get into a little bit of the buy sell. We did this at the end of the last show with the big man room. It was well liked. If I can figure out which one of the 3,000 tabs that I have it in, we will get to it. All right, so here we go. Braden Smith, buy or sell? Braden Smith averages more assists per game this year than last year.
I'm gonna go buy. Mainly because
a lot of people are selling. So
my reasoning is like, I mean, Purdue was still Purdue was incredibly good offensively last year. I think they improve, and like that means more of his assist opportunities are going to be made. Also, like TKR should have another gigantic year, and like that 2-man game is probably the best in the entire country, and they might even just go to it more throughout the season. So I think it's barely, like I don't expect him to crack 10 a game, but I could see him getting to like 9, which would be barely.
I'm 100%. Yeah, I'm 100% with you, and here's why: more weapons. I understand that. You know, especially with Meyer on the court, maybe there's more like he initiates his shot, doesn't need somebody else to get him his shot. So that could potentially decrease, or he creates for other people. Or maybe we have some big-to-big action between Clough and TKR. I think we average a substantial amount more possessions this year from offensive rebounding, increased defensive rebounding that just doesn't give wasted time to the other team having a second offensive chance. So I think our possessions go up, which creates more opportunity for Braden, and he's got more weapons around him to be more efficient. So I'm with you. I'm going to save my second one till the very end. All right. Fletcher Loyer leads the country in 3-point percentage.
Sell. I could maybe buy him leading Big Ten. Probably what was the leader? I'm going to look it up right now. What was the leader in 3-point percentage last season? Was 49.4%. Was Tyler Harris from Washington? He shot that well. Regardless.
How many attempts did they require?
2 per game. So look, because Loyer was like 40 something, I thought, or 30 something. So I'm gonna sell. I think realistically his ceiling is more like top 10 ish, top 15. Because he also he has to take some tough ones. Teams also at times just are like, hey, you are not going to score Loyer. Like we'll live with the other guys, but you are not. And so there's just stuff like that. So I sell.
The only reason I was tempted to buy here, and obviously, like, I mean, one out of the entire country, right? Like, it's hard to say that he's definitely. Maybe the better question would have been amongst power conference schools than everywhere, because you get a random guy that just barely meets the bare minimum and shoots 49% or whatever. But where I would buy into this a little bit is I don't think teams are going to be able to lock into him as much because of Clough, because of Meyer, because of second-year jumps to Jakari and CJ. I think he's going to get more kickouts from offensive rebounds, and I just think it's going to be harder for teams to lock in on him, and I think there's a chance he just goes nuclear from 3 this year.
I'm still just shook, like, because Tyler Harris, Washington was not good, and he was fine for them. He averaged 50% basically on 3 attempts a game at the Big Ten level. That one kind of passed me by. He transferred though, so we're that's what I'm stuck on right now. We should go to the next one.
All right. Omar Meyer needs to start in March for this team to be its best version.
Bye. The best version of Purdue is where Meyer is starting, because that means that the ceiling is there. That does not mean that Purdue cannot win a national championship if it's CJ or Jakari starting. I'm not saying that at all. But if we are talking pure ceiling, like, Meyer is who gets them to that ceiling.
Okay. So we're assuming that his defensive acumen has proven he can be on the court combined with his offensive tools.
Yeah, it's honestly, and it's either that or like the other thing is just Clough and Jacobson are good enough that, like, oh yeah, it's like you don't need an elite defender. And so the trade-off of, like, right, because and this is where I don't I'll say it, because, like, there's a scenario, especially if Meyer, like, if he hits, there's a scenario that this is like the most efficient offense we've seen in the last decade. Like, this could be like a historically good offense. Not just not just number one in the country, like historically good. And so that's where, like, if Meyer can get you to that level, if the defense is just good enough between him, Clough, Jacobson, then yeah, like, that's the ceiling.
Okay. CJ Cox averages 10 points per game this year.
Sell. I mean, just from a minute, like, I see his minutes dropping just a touch. I can't imagine his usage going up much at all. What he averaged last year, like 6 or something, 7?
He averaged 6 last year, and he only averaged 18.6 per game last year, minutes wise.
So yeah, I could see roughly the same minutes. Maybe he jumps up another point, but at 10 feels like a lot to me.
Okay. Jakari Harris shoots over 37% from 3 this year.
I'll buy, and that just might be. I'm a big Jakari Harris guy. Like, I can admit that one. It might just be some bias in there. But I do think he's like a 38, 39% 3-point shooter. If I was like,
that, right?
Yeah, 40.5% since January 1st. So, and he's not going to be high volume, so there is natural variance in there of, like, he could shoot 50% from 3 on low volume this year. He could also shoot 25%. Just because.
All right. Last one, which was probably the most obvious one coming into this show that anybody could tell me to ask. Braden Smith wins National Player of the Year.
Are you going to kick me off if I say so? No, I'll buy it, because I think Purdue is one of the best teams in the country, maybe just number one. I think he is clear-cut best point guard. I could see the efficiency even increasing a bit more this year. I mean, he didn't have an actual case for Player of the Year last year, but, like, he was All-American for a reason. So
yeah, consensus.
I'll buy it. Yeah.
All right. Start comments. Blake says, any idea when the AP will release their preseason rankings? No clue. How about you, Joe?
I am not the guy to ask about AP polls.
Yeah. Well, you buy into him so much, though.
They're fun. Like, if people just were like, "Oh, these are fun," then that's fine with
Right.
me. But they're not like meaningful in any capacity.
All right. I started this one just because I was blown away. I asked about the game where CJ got like 2 steals in the backcourt and 3 plays, and like 7 friggin' people jumped in with the exact game that it was. You and I follow this. We go to every Purdue home game, all the tournament games, the MTE games. We study film all the time. Did it pop into your head that it was the Michigan game right away to you, Joe? Gosh dang it. Don't embarrass me like that, Joe. Just say no.
I will
right.
say that's what popped in my head, but I wasn't 100% confident enough to like say it. So
yeah. Well,
I was kind of in between.
There was like 5 to 7 people in the chat. And that's what I love about Purdue fans. And I saw Douster said this the other day. He was talking about something in one of his shows. No, it was in a tweet where he was asking about people to follow or whatever, and somebody named a couple of Purdue names, you and I, and he said, one thing I learned about Purdue fans or something like that was like, you better make sure you know what you're talking about, because Purdue fans know. Like, they will remember everything. They are educated about basketball, blah, blah, blah. And every time we throw anything out about a player did this in this game or this player stat compared to the last, like, people in our chat just jump in right away. I love it. Olivia S., which we kind of talked about this already, says, this was in conversation about Meyer, will Meyer impact Braden's chances of beating the assist record?
I don't see it much. Like, I don't know. Maybe he is the marginal difference between him breaking it or not. Because I do think for everything that he could hurt in terms of, yeah, he takes some more possessions. I also buy him as a shooter and a scorer, and that's also leads in theory to more assists than for Braden. So I think it can kind of balance out. I think really quick, and we do not need to spend more than like a minute on this. Say some of these bye games early on, and Purdue doesn't have a ton of them. Purdue's up 35. Like, do you think there's any Braden play 5 more minutes, go assist hunt for a couple minutes? Or do you think of like, hey, like, this is a long season, let's just get you as many minutes of rest as possible. Right. Like, I could very easily see both, because Painter, right, he's not going to go out of his way to let guys record hunts and stuff, but like, there are little things that he does. I remember one last year, Braden Smith had 8 points and the opposing coach got 8 points and 10 assists, and the opposing coach got teed up. And usually it's Fletch that shoots free throws, and Fletch was going to the line, and Payne was like, no, Braden, like, to try to let him get the double-double. So there's little things like that, but I don't know. Do you have a thought on that?
I mean, I think it's interesting because there were a couple times last year where you and I and fans were like, man, we're up by like 25. Why are they still out there? So yeah. There's pieces of me that feel like he plays the starters more than we think he should in some of those bye games, but he wants to give him that run, give him time to gel, everything else. It'll be interesting with Meyer coming if he feels like he wants to put him out there in the point guard position to see how he, to let him have time to gel, especially since he missed so much summer practice. To her point, I don't think it would long-term impact just through the games that matter.
Yeah.
But to that point, in the games where Purdue's up big, it might be interesting how Painter handles that, of like, does he want to give Meyer a bunch of the junk time to let him get a feel for the offense?
It's fair.
So yeah, maybe. She also says, I'm worried Clough may be too deconditioned right now. He went home to Australia to work on getting a student visa because it was going to run up before the end of the basketball year. This upcoming year, their season is flipped a little bit from ours. So a lot of the Australian teams were using the courts and places that he can work out. while he was over there. So he said he was trying to do a lot of conditioning, just like out of his house. I feel like that's a temporary thing personally. And I feel like our guy Cabo is going to get a hold of him here, like since he's been on campus in early August, and make sure he's ready to go by the start of the year. And if not by the start of the year, by December personally. Jeff Parks, Joe says, I would bet Paint changes his mind 4 or 5 times on what the starting 5 should be before the first tip. I'm not going to ask you what Paint's going to think in his mind. I am going to ask you, do you think the starting lineup changes more than 5 times during the regular season?
No, I think it's like 3 to 4. Because I could see I'll stick with like 3 to 4. I don't think it changes a ton, just given how much continuity Purdue has, but he might try a couple things at the 5. I don't know. I could see Jacobson getting a couple starts somewhere too. Something and kind of throwing things weird.
I don't think it's more than 3, honestly, because I feel like what we've seen, as long as Purdue's winning, Painter's not going to change the starting lineup, and I think they're going to do a lot of winning this year. So I can see more changes in total minutes and in rotations than I can see changes in starting lineups this year specifically. Derek Mulligan gives a $1.99 super chat. Anybody listening in, if you appreciate what we do, in this off season, we never go out and seek advertising. Maybe we should, but we don't go out and seek advertisers. So if you enjoy what we're doing in this off season, want to see more of that content, super chats help. We appreciate your support. It helps gets us to these MTEs and NCAA tournament games and all that sort of stuff. Appreciate you, Derek. 2027 Final Four is in Detroit, back-to-back incoming. That we're going to lose the best trio of scoring that Purdue has ever seen, most likely in a senior class. So I don't know that I'm ready to go there quite yet, but I love it. I love it. I hope that we are. And we've seen that Painter just keeps recruiting and keeps bringing guys in. I think to be in that conversation, I honestly don't think the guard room would need anything. I think you might have to see something in the big room brought in from the transfer portal, but I don't want to talk about that yet. I don't even want to talk about that, why we have these guys on this team. Jeff Park says, how many different players have a 20-point game this season, Joe? This is a great question. I saw this and I was like, this is a great question. I want to know.
Braden Loyer, TKR for sure. Like those 3. Meyer would be 4. I'm going to go 5 because I think one of CJ or Clough does.
I think that's too low, man. I think that's too low.
20's a lot.
I'm gonna say CJ and Clough both. Like CJ was close to it last year. Did he?
CJ got it once.
He got it once.
Yeah, when they beat Nebraska by like 50.
Yeah. I think CJ somewhere in there, like he just gets on heaters, man. I think he gets there.
How many?
I think Clough definitely. I think I'm going 6. So I'm only going 1 more than you. So it's not like I'm really pushing it that far over, but I'm pretty solid that all 6 of those guys get one.
The only concern for me with Clough is like, is he going to play 30 minutes a game in the Big Ten?
I think there's some games.
I don't think I'd buy that.
I think there's some game that he just gets like 15 offensive rebounds in 22 minutes and puts 10 of those back up.
All right, there you go.
Or
that's
like
a
non-conference. Yeah, I mean, like he eats every rebound.
Small bigs.
I've been told a couple of times in the last couple of weeks that dude eats every rebound. So anyway,
who needs it?
We'll see. Yep. All right. I think that wraps us up, Joe. I will let you take us home. I appreciate 838 people tuned in right now live. Oh, Brian Tonsoni jumped in.
Yeah.
You know who?
Want to shout out a guy, Tonsoni.
Who's he? Is he talking about Clough right here? You know who he gets that against in terms of all the offensive. I would love it if it's IU, Brian. I would love it if Clough gets 15 offensive rebounds or 15 rebounds against IU. But nonetheless, Tonsoni, hey, even though IU and Purdue fans clash, Tonsoni is the class of college basketball podcasting. I think Joe and I can both say we listened to some of his shows early on in our time as we started podcasting as a model for how to do this professionally. So shout out Tonsoni.
Yep.
Appreciate you always coming on the show with Delphi Bracketology. And when we do the preview for the IU Purdue game, awesome dude. Take us home,
so
Joe.
yeah, that'll do it. A very long show, but a lot of good stuff to get into just with this guard room. And that's for having so much continuity, also has so many questions and good questions it's not you need 3 players to play the guard position. It's wow, only 3 guys can play at a time. And so lots of good stuff there. We do have the big talk. We had that a couple weeks ago. So that if you just go to our channel and into the lives, that'll be there as well. You can go listen to that if you missed that. We're, like we said, we're getting close. We'll be back sometime soon. Not exactly sure what or when, but we will definitely be back, and it's going to start ramping up because season is right about here. So do appreciate everybody tuning in. And let us know in the comments. Let us know in the comments who give your 3 guards that are starting at the beginning of the year, and if it changes, who's the 3 starting at the end of the year. So put those in the comments. We'll try to respond to some of those. We'll be back whenever it is the next one. Follow us on Twitter at Boilers in the Stands. You can follow Kraig at Twitter at Kraig Bowers 34, me at Joe Jackson CBB. So appreciate everybody tuning in, and we will see you all in the next one.